All right, guys, thank you so much for indulging me there. We have to give a shout out to them because they did take care of me and my friend last night. We went to go see Mortal Kombat, and they are our sponsors on this channel for movie reviews. If they're, it's in their theaters, so go give them a visit at their local theaters here in the Midwest if you're in the area. Now we can get into Mortal Kombat. Now, since we're in spoiler heavy territory, we can just talk about whatever we feel like starting off. So, James, let's start off with you this time. What did you let's give us your score first, and then give us your reasons why.
Um, I'm going to be a little bit generous on this one for a few reasons. One, because I am obviously biased on this one. Two, because I know Ryan's score is going to be really low. We've already had conversations sort of about this, but I grew up with Mortal Kombat. Like, I was the prime age group for Mortal Kombat when it came out. So I've always been like very into Mortal Kombat, and to me, it was such a fascinating universe because it was one of the first times I remember video games having story and mythology. And some of the fun incentive of the games was that you had to kind of like dig to find the mythology and to find these little tidbits. And I've always been really fascinated by this world and never entirely satisfied by any sort of depiction of it and like how deep they go into things. And I really love how much this movie pulls from that. It does make some missteps. I think the story really needed another draft, really needed a little bit more polish. And unfortunately, some of the characters kind of suffer a little bit. That said, you don't go to see Mortal Kombat really for that. You go to see it for the fights. And as far as the fights go, I'm going to give them a solid 9 out of 10 because these were fun. They were exciting. Something that's always been missing from the Mortal Kombat adaptations has been the sort of violent aspect of the games, which was like a staple of the games. It was how the games became famous. Was just how violent and gory they were. And that was part of the fun was, trying to figure out how to do fatalities and watch these people be dismembered. It was, a weird sort of safe, macabre sort of way to get out your sort of violent ambitions, I guess.
What would you give the score of the film overall?
A 7.
A 7. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, did I not say that off the top?
I don't think I heard at the beginning. Sorry.
Okay. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Okay. I think it's again, I think it needs a little bit more polish, a little bit more work. I think the photography is outstanding. I think a lot of the framing structure is a lot of fun. I know one of the complaints that's going to happen in this conversation is going to be, well, they didn't get to the tournament. We already had that movie, and only one of the games is a legitimate tournament. The rest of them are invasion. And I really think that there's more to the story to explore than just the tournament. That said, I really wish there was a prologue that explained the world and the tournament a little bit better, because there's actually a lot of backstory to that even the original movie didn't touch on. Like, they don't kind of talk about much that Shang Tsung originally was the champion. Like, he'd won 9 times in a row and then lost to Kung Lao. And then Goro became the new champion and won 9 times in a row. So we've actually had 2 swings at this. And Shang Tsung became so fed up that he just ended up invading Earth and like doing all these really shady things. But I think like there's a whole backstory with Edenia, the world that Katana comes from, the way it's conquered. I think that would have made a great sort of like setup and explainer to what the stakes are in this and why the villains are so dangerous in this, because I think it's kind of lost in the story a little bit. But again, I really think that you're going to this for the fights. You're going to see the violence. You're going to see it. And I think this, like, I missed this point earlier, but the earlier films were all aimed at sort of a more all ages audience. They were either PG or PG-13. I can't remember which.
PG-13.
But they really like sort of muddled the violence a little bit. Like, they were still like fight movies, but like it wasn't super gory. Whereas this one, like, it leans into the gore and it has fun with it. And
Definitely does.
And I think that's one of the like selling points, especially if you're a Mortal Kombat fan and you were one of those guys who, was in the arcade practicing, trying to do fatalities to see, someone ripping someone else's head off by its spine and whatnot. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed this. I don't think it's perfect. And I think that you kind of need to go into it expecting it to not be perfect. Because unfortunately, I don't think people are going to take this story seriously enough that we're going to get a really good depiction. I think this is probably the best depiction we're going to get, which is kind of a bummer. I'm hoping for sequels because there's so much more to this world to explore, so much more backstory. But yeah, we'll get into more of that, I guess.
Yeah. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and go next? Because I feel like we all know you're not going to like this one.
Geez, I'm kind of waffling between a 3 and a 4 here. I guess I'll go ahead and give it a 4 out of 10. I mean, I just couldn't find myself caring about this film. I couldn't, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that it is a reboot. And you're right, the story already has been told. They've already told the story of going to the tournament, and in this film, it's a film all about getting ready to go to the tournament and sending assassins to kill people before they go to the tournament. And there's so many times that people did something I was just like, why didn't this happen before? Why didn't they do this before? And there's literally, the movie suffers from some of the same problems as Mortal Kombat Annihilation did. My main story issue with Annihilation was always like, there's this giant invasion where Outworld is taking over Earth. And in the end, the good guys just go and fight the 6 chief bad guys. Like, they don't have an army surrounding them. They don't have security. They just get into Mortal Kombat one-on-one fights. And this movie has the same problem. Like, he's trying to kill all these champions, and he's sending very individual people to do it. And most of our heroes get away, and then they decide the best way to win it is to go and take care of each of these assassins, which is like, it's not very efficient on Shang Tsung's part. And he says at the end, next time I will not send assassins, I will send armies. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, why didn't you do that before? Like, that's the same problem as Annihilation. And they're acting like killing these assassins, going one-on-one of these fights is going to solve their problems. And it, of course it doesn't. And they never exit being in any sense of danger. I mean, there's no reason that at the end of the movie he goes back to later. That doesn't go back to his life. Our main character, who I also don't care about, and that's a whole other thing, is why did they feel the need to add a whole new character? And that's, as a Mortal Kombat fan, I'm complaining, like, why did they feel the need to add a whole new character when there's such a plethora of mythic characters in this story? They teased Johnny Cage at the end. Why the hell didn't they just make it Johnny Cage? Yeah, he goes back to the gym and gets ready to go on his trip to find Johnny Cage, and he's acting like the danger's passed, at least for now. And it hasn't passed even for now. Like, there's no reason why Shang Tsung wouldn't send another guy right after. I mean, the story beats just don't make sense. I don't understand so much. If I don't like, and Scorpion is gone for the whole movie, and then he shows back up towards the end. Why then?
There's a canon explanation for this, and I'll get to that.
But yeah. I mean, if it's not apparent in the film, I mean, like, but it's just, and there's other issues I have as a fan of the games. I'm sort of a lapsed fan, haven't done my research in quite a while, but from what I understand, Sub-Zero did not kill Scorpion's family. Scorpion was told
nope,
this.
That's canon. That is
there's
canon.
There's two different canons that you can go by. There's one where Sub-Zero actually does kill his family. There is one universe where that does happen. I believe it was
that may have been in the rebooted universe, because everything.
No, that
was the original story.
The original story. Well, I guess I'll have to go back do my.
Here, let me explain right here. Just so it might help you. So in the original story, Sub-Zero does actually kill his family, and Scorpion goes after revenge. In the rebooted story, actually, Quan Chi.
Quan Chi in Mortal Kombat mythology, Sub-Zero is the game that you can see Quan Chi actually framing Sub-Zero for killing Scorpion's family.
That's in the new. That's
Mortal Kombat mythologies is from the 90s. Like, we'll have to do all our research after this, and I don't know, but
I've recently done all of mine because I've been sucked into this world for so long, and I think the rebooted, it's reboot / continuation. Because at the end of Armageddon,
it's not a reboot because it's a new timeline.
That's what I mean.
The original timeline.
Basically, what happened is Star Trek 09, the 09 Star Trek movie started this big trend of rebooting everything in continuity reboot, where his character goes back in time and starts shit over from scratch so they can tell new stories. So it's in continuity reboot is what I call it. So Star Trek did it first, and then Mortal Kombat did it, DC Comics did it, Marvel Comics did it.
I mean, Star Trek didn't do it first. There are plenty of films that did it long before Star Trek.
Okay, well, at any rate. But yeah, no, I didn't get why Scorpion just only appeared when he did. I didn't get it's just so much in the movie
because he was being tormented in hell.
But
So
also
just-
he needed the from what I've gathered, and I think it's still convoluted and it still is not as good as it could have been. Because I believe you're right, James. It definitely needed. I feel like this was a rough draft of a script.
Yeah.
And needed a lot more work. Because what they alluded to is that he needed to be unleashed from the nether realm by the blood of his kin.
Yep.
So when his blood got onto the spear of scorpions,
Kunai.
that the kunai, that's when he was able to come through from the nether realm. Like
Where
I said,
was that?
I'm agreeing with you there, Ryan.
They explained it.
That it explains it.
Raiden-
but not,
Raiden
it's
explained
not
it.
in a very good way. Does that make sense? Like there should have been a little more explanation. Like I was a firm believer when I heard this was only gonna be an hour and 50 minutes, technically an hour and 45 when you take the preview or the end credits. I was like, if you're having these many, I always get fearful that I feel like if you're gonna have this big a cast, you need like a 2 hour and 15-minute film. Easy to have a lot more character development, a lot more. A prologue would have been nice for Mortal Kombat to kind of show lineage of Kung Lao, get some stuff there. And even I would say even having Katana in there would have been really great. And I didn't mind Cole Young. I just didn't like the actor necessarily because he just wasn't good actor. Like he was very good in his
what's your score
dialogue.
out of 10, Josh?
I'm sorry. I'm still gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I'm still gonna give it a positive score because I had one hell of a fun fucking time.
I mean, here's the thing: is ultimately, I think some of these problems I even had with like Spider-Man: Homecoming, which is that because they're rebooting it, and because the first original film, the film that first adapted it, Spider-Man 02 or Mortal Kombat 95, the first film adapted was a very straightforward adaptation, taking the big aspects of the game, the tournament, right? The Shang Tsung and Liu Kang winning and all that sort of stuff. Because someone already did that and because they're rebooting it, they feel the need to avoid doing that, but then they don't touch on some of the big concepts. Like we're not talking about Spider-Man here, but so we won't get into that.
They say towards the end, we'll give them the tournament that they wanted. The thing with Mortal Kombat is the tournament is there for a purpose. The tournament is there to prevent Outworld specifically, but other people from invading. They have to earn it, and they have to do it through winning 10 straight championships. But they have one championship per generation, so roughly every 25 years. Mortal Kombat has been won 9 straight times by Outworld. They say that in the little text teaser. I hate text teasers. Make it a visual prologue. Stop with the text teasers. Star Wars being the exception because they were doing a thing based on Flash Gordon, but that's a whole other bag. But like doing the actual strict tournament itself, I don't think would be all that much fun because we've already seen that done. The majority of Mortal Kombat is about invasion. It's about Outworld coming to take over Earth, and all of these combatants, for lack of a better term, they call them champions in this version, which I'm fine with.
Or chosen ones, not just
chosen. Yeah, well, there's specifically one chosen one, and then I love the whole thing with the marks on them and how it's sort of like an earned title kind of thing because you defeat the other champion and then you get the mark, like kind of proving yourself in a sort of like spiritual combat sense. But they do end up getting a tournament style ending because we have the one-on-one fights, especially at certain locations, like the one with Jax where they're on that bridge over the spikes that you recognize from Mortal Kombat.
That was pretty cool.
That was straight out of Mortal Kombat 2, and I'm like, I love that. Oh, that was sorry.
But yeah, so I'm with you there, and like there's plenty of other spots like that where I was like, oh my god, I know what that is. Oh my god, I know what that is. But at the same time, in the context of the film, like when he shows it there, us as fans know it, of course. Now, I don't mind it because I know, but I will guarantee you, like they'll just be like a fan just going to see it, like, what is this place? Like, I wish there was still a little more help towards the non-fan, like, or even for fans who are us, like, give us more meaning and context and just like, oh, it's a cool, like for me, what I feel like they did for some cool Easter eggs was help maybe further down the line. Like for instance, we're in the temple and you saw Shinnok's amulet. Like that to me, I was like, oh, I know what that is, and like,
and Katana's fan blade.
Yeah, that
and
too.
There's
like
statues of Shao Kahn and
like,
there's lots of little
like those kind of things I'm fine with because to me that shows emphasis of this could be something moving forward. Because Shinnok's amulet is one of the big key parts in Mortal Kombat 10 and part in Mortal Kombat 11, the video games and the stories. But other than that, like the problems. I want to get to stuff. I want to save the stuff I loved at the end. So I want to get the bad stuff out of the way now. The stuff I had, the biggest things I had, because a lot of stuff you guys are bringing up, the stuff, the gripes, I just kind of let them go. The things that really stood out to me that were most is I didn't like the editing. I felt like there was way too many
Oh,
action
yeah.
cut scenes. Like I
Yeah.
feel like, and some people are like, well, maybe it's just an homage to 90s editing. That's still 90s editing action is not good. There's a reason
No.
I got
Actually,
away from
no.
it.
There's a cut in this movie that I was so shocked by that I marked down in my mind. I'm forgetting it a little bit. I think it was 54 or 58 minutes in, but I marked it in my mind at the time to bring up here. There, and I'll put it. I'll put it in the edit of the video. Like there's a cut where like I think it's just Kano getting up, and they go Kano getting up, and then cut to someone else, and like it's such a fast cut. It's like sometimes Josh and I will make a mistake editing, and we'll have a clip, and then we'll cut, and then there'll be a little extra section on the end of it that we forgot to cut off. And it feels like one of those. It feels like someone accidentally spliced in one frame, like they're trying to be subliminal. You'll see it when we get the video up, but it's an insanely bad cut. Like, who edited this?
My issue with the editing wasn't necessarily little things like that. Like stuff like that gets missed all the time. I don't have a problem with that. Little continuity errors never bother me. My issue is with the way they frame the fights, because there's a sort of methodology to editing where you try to like sort of hyper edit, where you're cutting a lot to try and build the action, which is fine for stuff like chase scenes or like stuff where you need it to be hyperkinetic. But for a fight scene, you kind of want to just let your camera roll and let the action play out itself. Like if you see really good kung fu films, really good kung fu action scenes, because they're kind of the gold standard in my mind for hand-to-hand combat, they will just let the camera roll. Like think of the Daredevil fight scene in the hallway, where it's just a one take shot and it's just constantly going. And you're never really bored because there's always sort of something going on, or you're just kind of shocked at like how like worn out these characters are. Or like I think it's Old Boy has like a really great hallway sequence like that where it's just one long take kind of thing.
John Wick does it as well in their films, in their action.
Yeah.
films.
And I'm not saying it has to be one take. I'm just saying let the action kind of breathe out a little bit and let the action happen. And like the cutting back and forth is fine if you're cutting to like someone throws a kunai and you're cutting to the hitting the tree or something, or hitting someone's chest. That's fine. But when it's like, fisticuffs, hands, hitting, all that stuff, we need to see that play out. And I feel like there was too many moments where they were too busy trying to cut stuff to build the kinetic feeling of it and not letting things just play out. That said, I still love the fight scenes. I still thought they were great. My only complaint with the fight scenes was the opening one. I hate fake blood. I hate CGI blood. Stop fucking using CGI blood. And there was a couple of shots where like Scorpion is fighting a bunch of ninja from the Lin Kuei tribe, who are like taking over his compound and whatnot. And there's a few shots where I don't know why they did it this way, but like they had to green screen the guy into the shot and comp him into the shot. And the matching doesn't quite work. When he hits the ground, it doesn't quite work. Like the shadows don't play off well. The color matching doesn't work. And it really stands out. And that's more of a effects thing than it is an action thing. But it's like, that stuff really hurt it in places for me. That said, you get to moments like the big fight scene at the end, and like there might be mistakes in there. I was just so invested at that point, I didn't care. That scene was just outstanding. The one between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and Cole. I love the fact that it's framed with fighting at his gym, because we start his adventure in the gym and show his faults and his problems, and how he doesn't believe in himself, and now he's holding his own against who the movie is basically making to be like the ultimate sort of combatant villain in this, that being Sub-Zero. And beyond Sub-Zero is a rather frightening character.
Awesome Sub-Zero.
And just that entire scene, the buildup of the characters, the buildup of their personal stories, I don't know, it had me 200%. And to me, that's why you watch this movie, is for that scene. And like, I can't praise the action enough, and the editing problems aside, I still think that it kind of like steps above all of that and just yeah, you guys were saying you don't have investment
I feel the
in the
same way, but we
characters.
have to be fair to the filmmaking process that aesthetically just it doesn't look good. Like we've been so spoiled with stuff like John Wick and Daredevil, where let these fight scenes just play out and you get to almost bask in its glory, essentially, of how great it looks. And I feel like the 90s editing cutscenes they tried to do just didn't work for me. So like I said, it was a problem that I just, every time it happened, I was like getting frustrated because I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, come on, I want to see more of the action. I don't know. And then the other issue I found myself having, I had it in my head, now I lost it. I had it in my head, now I lost it. But the other parts is, I mean, there was a couple characters where I felt like they weren't good at, Cole Young, the character, the guy, Louis Tan. I didn't mind the character, and I didn't mind even structurally that he had his lineage involving in Mortal Kombat is through Scorpion. I'm fine with that. I didn't mind that at all. I wish he was more maybe of a side character and have that still be Liu Kang. But the other the character, like there's just some characters like the guy who played Shang Tsung, who I know mostly from Dark Knight. I didn't buy him.
No, and it's hilarious when you compare him to Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa and the charisma of that villain in Mortal Kombat and how great a villain. Whatever your problems are with that film, like that's one of my favorite villains of all time. And just
Shang Tsung shouldn't be charismatic though.
Oh my gosh.
No, he shouldn't. Shang Tsung should be he should be like the Emperor in Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, where he's an unseen force. That was his entire role in the first game was you don't know who this villain is. You just know that you have to fight your next combatant kind of thing. He should be a force that's sort of ethereal and like a threat, but not on screen all the time. And as much as I love the original role and just how much he chews the scenery, he's so much fun in that role, that character shouldn't be nearly as present as he is. That's my problem with this movie, is that they have him too much. And it should be his generals doing all the work.
Same time, James, none of us can deny the original Shang Tsung from the film is just such a perfect. He's so perfect that they included him in Mortal Kombat 11 in the storyline
and in the online series that they did.
Yeah, and it still works. But at the same time, you didn't like. They could have even had him be an old Shang Tsung. Just give him a wig, put some whiskers on him, like from the.
I wouldn't have had a problem with him coming back, but I do think that Shang Tsung should not be nearly as present in the series as he is. Like
that's fine. But at the same time,
or save him till later kind of thing.
The reason I didn't like him is not that he's a bad actor. I just didn't sense the villainy. I didn't sense the evil presence that someone like the original actor can. But even then, I've like in my head, I'm like, who would be better at this role? And Ken Watanabe would have been a perfect Shang Tsung. He would have been so fucking good as Shang Tsung. I feel like they missed that mark to have him be such. Because there's so many other people, and even like the guy who played the other the actress who played Sonya Blade.
Yeah, Bridget Wilson.
Her acting skills.
No, not Bridget, the new one he's talking about.
Yeah.
But Bridget Wilson is Sonya Blade as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, no, it's I thought she did a fine job. The new one.
This new one, she did okay. It was like I said, there's a lot of wooden spots in there for her dialogue. And then last person, which I love him as an actor, he just didn't fit it for me personally, was Ludi Lin, who played Liu Kang. Now, Liu Kang typically is supposed to be a shorter character, but he's supposed to be the most skilled character. And I just didn't feel like like when he faced Cabal, I was like, he shouldn't be having this much difficulty with Cabal. Like,
see, I like that. That was one of the things I did like, because Liu Kang is actually my favorite combatant to use.
Same.
But I like that I like his growth as a character from being someone who has a lot of doubt about his ability, despite the fact like he's very clearly skilled. But when you put him next to Kung Lao, who is a far superior fighter, a lot more confident, he feels weak. And I like that they gave him a bit of an arc to go on. I don't think that he should be the lead, because I think the lead should be a naive character that you have to bring in kind of blind into this. And I think that Liu Kang traditionally knows too much about what's going on to be a blind character coming into this. So that's why I like that they did Cole Young. What I think they should have done with Cole Young is make him the new Kung Lao.
Liu Kang, you mean?
No, make him the new Kung Lao.
Cole Young? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because Kung Lao, unfortunately, is kind of wasted in this.
Yeah.
I like him as a character.
He did a great job.
He did a great job, but I think that what they should have done was use him as the original Kung Lao and use Cole Young as the descendant of Kung Lao instead of the descendant of Scorpion.
Mhm.
And that's his lineage into all of this, is
That
that
would've been
he
cool.
is the reincarnation of Kung Lao, because that is actually canon, that we have two different Kung Laos
Yeah.
fighting. We have the modern day one and the original one. But they needed someone to come into this cold to be able to explain everything to him and to kind of slowly reveal how everything kind of works, because you need to explain things to the audience. When you're explaining something to a character that knows all of this stuff, it comes off as rather forced and very sort of expository. Whereas it's, to go back to an old favorite of mine, that's why you bring in Winston into Ghostbusters, is to be able to explain the science to him. Seriously, that's why he comes in when he does, is because you've removed Dana Barrett from the role that she's playing, and you still need someone to explain everything to, because these three guys are not going to sit there explaining it to each other. They already know it, but you need to explain it to the audience. So you need someone to talk to, and you need someone who's not going to know this stuff. And that's why Cole is the character that he is because they need to be able to talk to somebody and tell them, this is the tournament. I've been researching this all my life. We're trying to find, what these symbols mean, and, how to get to this tournament and how to find Lord Raiden's temple and all this stuff.
And I guess
So we need to go on the journey with him.
The structure and way they told the story, which was like fight scene exposition. It was very cookie cutter. I felt like there was such a better way to do this. Like I said, that's why I feel like the screenplay was just a rough draft. I feel like there could have been so much more ways to handle this. And I'm okay with Johnny Cage not being in initially. He can come in later. That way it gives you time to keep the characters going. And I really would have wished Sonya would have had the mark, and so did Kano. But at the same time, I wanted that lineage of revealing that she's been hunting Kano forever, and Kano's been working with Shang Tsung this whole time to help destroy Earthrealm, kind of what they did originally. I just didn't want to have it where he had it, she didn't, and then he has to kill her to do so. Still, it was cool to watch. It was cool, and the action scenes between them were great. And I actually love the idea of the arcana, or what they call it. That way, it gives people their power.
Yeah, there's actually an explanation as to why people have superpowers.
Exactly, it gets a good explanation. It really is, and I liked it. And I thought it was very cunning way to do that. So, and other than just saying, "Oh, some people have it," it's like, "Oh, okay, I guess some people have it and some don't." But
you're right in that. And there is some. You went from positive to negative. I go from negative to positive. There is some fun stuff. There's some nice little references to the games, like the sweeping scene where he does the sweep kick scene, where he just sweep kicks him and sweep kicks him again and says, "Is that your only move?" And that's kind of in reference to the game where you just do that to certain opponents, and every time
someone would just cheese the one move.
Yeah.
But the other, I think that was pretty much the one big reference to the game. And the best line in the movie that almost made the whole movie work for me was Jax after he kills Reiko, just going, "Yeah, these motherfuckers work."
Yeah.
I didn't understand Jax's arms. I didn't understand the logic behind them. Again, going back to, I didn't understand why some things happen at some points, they didn't happen at other points. Why he starts growing his arms and they grow 10 times their size, and
because that's his arcana.
Well, there you go. And there's one part that just I wanted this to be a great moment for me. I think I was the target audience in this kind of thing, because as we've talked about, I love, especially in reboots, when someone's dealing with a sort of a classic older franchise, they're trying to breathe new life into it, when a classic music theme comes back at a big moment. And we talked about this. I know Joss Whedon's Justice League is not the most popular thing right now, but I did love that moment when the Batman theme plays. I love in Godzilla King of the Monsters, another movie I wasn't crazy about, but almost the entire thing was worth the price of admission. When he rises out of the water and Akira Ifukube's theme plays. I adore stuff like that. And there's a moment in this movie where Scorpion finally shows up and dun 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 dun, and I was like, I'm sorry.
I love that. I loved it so much.
If it worked for you, that's great. If that was a moment for you, like the Godzilla moment was for me, then cool beans.
And I really wish they would have gone the route of, like, when Sub-Zero when Bihan killed him in the beginning, Scorpion and his whole family, I was like, ooh, are they gonna do Quan Chi? Like, I really wanted that arc, because I really love the idea that they're still rival clans, but Bihan and Scorpions, they had sort of an understanding between one another in the lore, but then Scorpion was just so angry he still killed him anyway, and like
Hanzo.
his brother, Hanzo still killed him anyway, but his brother, then they sort of had. I love the more that complexity that I wanted in this.
yeah.
Kind of like with Kano and Sonya. I wanted the more complexity of it, of their storyline, just to help give you more meat on the bones. You know what I mean?
And that's why I'm disappointed that they use Melina in this, because when we do eventually get Katana, we're not going to get that sister relationship anymore.
Exactly.
And the whole like complexity of her being a literal clone mutant kind of thing, where she's, part I'm trying to remember the name of the species, Baraka's species, and part
well, we may
Adenian.
still see some of these characters again, because even Shang Tsung said it.
But
and
they
lore,
killed off Melina, so it's like now we don't get that sister relationship anymore.
Yeah.
So
we may not get that, but we still may see them again, because like even Shang Tsung said, and if you know the lore, death is just another portal. Because technically they've gone now to the Nether Realm, where Shinnok is controlling the Nether Realm with Quan Chi, and they
we can get
bring him back
Revenants and
as
all that.
Revenants.
Yeah.
So
and then Sub-Zero is destined to come back as Noob Saibot.
Oh yeah, and I'm looking forward to that shit.
But I'm also looking forward to seeing Sub-Zero's brother. That was always my favorite character growing up. I dressed up as him for Halloween one year. Had the scar. I think it was my mother's lipstick. I made the scar on my face. And I shot a wad of paper instead of ice at people as they opened the door. I thought it was cool.
That was really cool.
I did always love Sub-Zero's brother, the second Sub-Zero. So
Yeah.
he's a good guy. He's a hero. So
yeah, I'm kind of sad that they wasted Cabal, because I feel like they were establishing him. Like they've got a really good actor playing him, and I thought his performance was really fun. And it's such an interesting character, especially with his backstory being involved with the Black Dragon clan and whatnot, and his like relationship with Kano. But they bring him in like the third act to like turn Kano, and it's like you're basically fulfilling the same role as you had with Kano earlier in the film. So it's like kind of like telling that Kano's gonna die, but then he also dies. It's like you burn through this awesome character. Like I don't care about the other two generals that Reiko and the vampire girl. I know they're canon characters, but they're nobody to me. But like I feel like Melina and Cabal were very much wasted, and I think that there's so much potential for story there that they kind of can't do now, unfortunately. And even when they're Revenants, they're sort of like mindlessly controlled kind of thing. They're not really themselves. I mean, they are to a degree, but it's like it's not the same dynamic as when they're actually living characters. Sure. Goro, I don't have as much problem with him kind of wasting, because he's like, as much as like he's an interesting character in that he was a tough boss to fight when you fought him for the first time, because he had so much health. As an actual character, there's not much to him besides he looks really cool. So
I'm just glad they introduced him, so that way you can introduce the Shokan clan from Outworld, because I agree. I'm glad he was just, there, and he fought someone and he died.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad they did that anyway, just so we can have now, maybe if we get a sequel, you get to more with Shiva, which is to me more of a way more dynamic character than Goro was.
Well, I also think that there's a lot more to Outworld sort of politics that are very interesting. I'm very sad that they wasted Kotal Khan in a like picture from the past kind of thing.
Yeah,
because him being the successor to Shao Kahn. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a whole sort of like politics thing and like the warring tribes kind of thing, being sort of united, kind of.
Kotal Khan, what?
Kotal Khan, he's the successor of Shao Kahn after they kill Shao Kahn.
See, I stopped paying attention to the games after Mortal Kombat, after they rebooted it with Mortal Kombat. So Armageddon was my last sort of game. But I will say, guys, according to IGN, in the original timeline, the original continuity, Quan Chi or Sub-Zero was killed Scorpion, but then Quan Chi killed Scorpion's family and convinced him that Sub-Zero did it.
But it's still Sub-Zero doing it, and it's still that part is.
But it's not Sub-Zero doing it. He didn't kill Scorpion's family. He killed Scorpion.
That's a retcon. It was originally Sub-Zero, and then it goes back to actually being Sub-Zero. In several different iterations, it's Sub-Zero that kills his family because it's a conflict between the two clans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's the clan thing that's the important part of this, and like I don't care if Quan Chi's part of it. It's still like I don't know. I still love that part. I'm gonna defend it, and I think that you're wrong on it. So
so probably the